I've been a Josh Allen
You
advocate at the
should be.
beginning
He's
of the year.
amazing. He's wonderful. He's a
He's
fantastic
unbelievable.
quarterback. The problem is, I want to read a stat. Do you guys mind if I read you something?
Oh, go ahead.
Since 2001, there have been 125 drives in the NFL's postseason where it was at least the fourth quarter, and there was under a minute to play, and the team on offense trailed by 7 points or fewer at the start. These are your standard clutch moments for a football team, the do-or-die drives that win and lose critical games. Out of those 125 drives, only 40% of the time did the team on offense pull off the magic trick to get the points they needed. In other words, a touchdown or a field goal to either win the game or tie the game and send it to overtime.
Yep.
Some of these quarterbacks are really good at it, such as Tom Brady, who was 5 for 11 in those situations in the postseason, 46%. Or Drew Brees, who was 3 for 6 in his playoff career, 50%. Only one player is perfect, and that's Patrick Mahomes, who was 7 for 7 in those situations.
That's ridiculous.
So if you're asking me to pick against Patrick Mahomes, I would say to you, what on earth are you smoking?
So that was Trey Wingo bringing up that clutch stat, which is unreal. But again, you look at the situation, you look at who the coaches are on that team and what this team has done in the last 7 years. You can't take anything away from them. You could talk about the refs. Yes, the refs have been a great assistance to them in many ways, but they've been a great assistance to many games, helping Vegas, which now has turned ugly against Vegas. That's a whole different conversation for a different day, but that's a very telling stat, which kind of tells you you should put yourself in the position to win the game and not leave it in the hands of the refs. Or the first game I'm going to talk about, which is the AFC Championship game, and what I'm going to talk about is Patrick Mahomes. And it's funny because I've had some time to assess all 4 teams in these championship games. I just didn't come out and do a podcast right away and say, well, okay, let me just boom, 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 blah, 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 and then that's it. You know, I feel like when you're more prepared, when you kind of see things from different angles, intelligent people see things from different angles and they see other people's perspectives, even if they don't agree with them. You still see their perspective, understand it, and then you could debate. I've heard a lot of horse poo from a lot of the media outlets, ESPN analyst, Fox analyst, social mediaist, everybody. Some of them have been fantastic with their thoughts and their views and been honest. Like there was a comment by Stephen A. Smith where he says Josh Allen's crime is he isn't Patrick Mahomes. That's true. If it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, he would probably be in a couple of Super Bowls. He's not lying. I don't agree with everything he says. There's certain things that he says sometimes I'm like, are you serious, dude? But he's 100% right. And whether you like it or not, Patrick Mahomes is the guy to beat in the NFL. And until he's beaten, it's not going to happen. I don't hear nothing else. The Philadelphia Eagles have a very good opportunity, have a very good team in less than 2 weeks to do that. And even if the Philadelphia Eagles win that game and win that Super Bowl, we are still going to be talking about Patrick Mahomes just because of what he's done. And also Andy Reid and what he's done for both franchises that are going to be playing in the Super Bowl, which he's beaten them once already 2 years ago. I mean, Andy Reid, I love Andy Reid as a coach because he's the one guy, and I said this when Michael Vick got in all that crap. I said, if any coach is going to give him a chance, it'll be Andy Reid. He was one of 3 coaches I picked because there are players, people in this world that have done worse. Dictators, presidents, prime ministers that have done worse to civilization and have gotten opportunities or have walked without any repercussions. So when Michael Vick got that opportunity, got that call to play for the Eagles, I said, man, Andy Reid is doing a great thing. And he's going to be blessed for that one day. And now you see what the the rewards are for him. Andy Reid has got Super Bowls on his chest. He's got a resume. Even before he went to Kansas City, his resume was already a Super Bowl resume, just for the fact of everything that he's accomplished, what he's done, and how he's done it. So, but for the Buffalo Bills, I think the takeaway from that AFC Championship game was they just didn't have enough personnel or skilled personnel to win that game. I think their game plan was exactly the way they wanted. They tried their best. They couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes on the RPOs. The secondary was decimated. They were missing a couple of guys, which seems to be the theme for the Bills every year. The secondary, and they draft very well when it comes to secondary players. Don't get me wrong. They draft very, very well, but just unfortunately, this particular time, they were unable to do anything. And I mean, there was a couple of plays in the game, like the Worthy catch, which was clearly incomplete, and there's other things, but the takeaway was the defense wasn't able to make those key stops when they were supposed to keep Buffalo in the position to maybe even have a lead in the game or something like that. I mean, the 4th and 1, the pushback, whatever. I've seen so many of those in the NFL be called one way or the other, so we're not going to get into that. But overall, this game was exactly what we thought it would be. If it was a blowout, we would be saying something else right now. We would say the Bills are done. It wasn't a blowout. We expected this, even though the Bills had a slow start. And, like I said, Josh Allen went for 237, 2 touchdowns. He could have rushed for 1. James Cook had 2 touchdowns, only 85 yards. I don't think he should have gotten the ball more, but that's not me. I'm not the offensive coordinator. Mahomes only threw for 1 touchdown. He had 245, but he ran for 2. That was all RPOs. And the Bills couldn't do anything with the RPOs. And then Elam also, who came in, for Benford, he was completely unprepared, and it's not his fault. He was prepared to play, but he wasn't prepared for playing a team who's been winning and has had this culture for the last 6 to 7 years. So, and Von Miller, he's not the same guy, and Matt Milano was basically tackling people with one arm. So it was tough. But I mean, there were 2 plays that Buffalo had, and I felt the Curtis Samuel's touchdown, that was phenomenal. That was a pro-level catch. Mac Hollins' catch for that touchdown, that was a pro-level catch. I mean, and then, of course, Xavier Worthy's touchdown, which I loved coming out of Texas. I felt the Bills should have drafted him. They had it right there, and they traded the pick to the Chiefs, who the Chiefs subsequently picked him. Buffalo Bills fans, and for all you listening to this podcast, and I appreciate all the listeners from all across the globe, and especially Bills fans, any Bills fans listening to this podcast, shout out to you guys. You guys are phenomenal fans. Your support for your squad is a different level, and you're going to continue to support them. It's not over. You guys will get to a Super Bowl. I believe you will. Josh Allen is not 50 years old. We got to calm down with that foolishness. This is a roadblock he's going through. He's not the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. He's going to get there, and I'm sure he's going to make very, very well do of his opportunity. So, but to the Bills staff or front office, stop trading with the Chiefs, man. Don't you see you gave them a quarterback? I mean, you didn't want him, but you gave them a chance to get Mahomes. And then you turned around last year and gave them Xavier Worthy when you needed a receiver. I mean, Keon Coleman is solid, but he's not Xavier Worthy. What are you guys thinking? Like, it's preposterous. Even a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who's a Buffalo Bills fan, we were like, what the heck? This was draft night. Like, what? Like, are you out of your minds? Like, what are you guys doing? So I don't know what Buffalo got out of that. I have no idea. I can't remember, but as a football fan, I'm like, you got to be out of your gore. So But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl with a 32-29 win. They're going back. They're going to New Orleans. The Bills are going to have another off season where questions are going to be asked and all that. But so what? Who cares? And again, it's one of those games where I can't kill anybody. I could just say the Bills, they got to continue grinding. Yes, they're 0-4, but all they need is to get one. And with the AFC being where it is, Baltimore is going to be there. Pittsburgh, I don't know about them. They got to pick between Fields and Russell. That's a whole different conversation for another day. Cincinnati, can they get an offensive line and some defense? Can they draft that? Because if they don't, they're going to be where they are again. So there's a lot of questions, but I believe that the Bills will get back there. Now, the NFC Championship game, the narrative for that is simply the Eagles were just better. And Saquon running for 3 touchdowns was Saquon. Saquon Barkley has been on a revenge tour for the ages. And I don't think it's just for him. I think it's for all the running backs in the NFL because James Cook has had a great year. There's some other running backs who've had some great performances this season. Because let's be real, we've heard a lot of analysts and people, Nick Wright from First Things First. I remember his comments about Saquon, which was preposterous and ridiculous. When they signed him because he's been injured, blah blah blah, this crap. Saquon has basically came out and says, "I'm going to run my tail off. I'm going to show you guys that I am legit, and I'm going to show you guys running backs do matter because." Regardless whether you like it or not, the running backs, they do talk. There's a relationship between positions in the league. And I'm sure the running backs have been like, yo, we've been disrespected when it comes to getting paid. And they have been. Clearly been disrespected. The running back carousel has been at an all-time high. I think the last running back that got a lot of money was Ezekiel Elliott, and that was a complete disaster. But that's Jerry being Jerry as usual. Ignorant, stubborn, and thinks that he knows everything. He still doesn't get it since my guy Jimmy Johnson left, and he never will, but that's a whole different conversation for another day. But Jalen Hurts had 3 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 rushing, classic Jalen Hurts, RPO again. Shipley had the 1 touchdown. He had 77 yards receiving. I mean, Jaden Daniels had 48 yards rushing and 1 touchdown, and he threw 255. He did throw an interception, but had a touchdown. He threw 48 times. The kid threw 48 times. The kid is ready. Now, is this Zach Ertz, by the way? Shout out to him for 104 yards. A.J. Brown had 96. But I got to say this, is this a standard for rookies? No, you're not going to have every rookie do this. It's not going to happen. Jaden Daniels might have an off year next year. He might have an off year starting in September. It might be a little wonky. It's normal. Just like C.J. Stroud had an off year, but his off year is based on the fact that, there was injuries on his team and also his coach doesn't know how to control his players from pushing other coaches. But that's a whole different conversation again for another day. But the system in Washington, it's working. They got a great defensive coach. They have an offensive coordinator who's a good coordinator. I think he's a better coordinator than a coach in Cliff Kingsbury. And they're gonna get it. They're gonna get it right. They got Terry McLaurin, who's become the go-to guy for Jaden Daniels. They're just getting there. They're gonna be one of those teams. They can go back to the NFC Championship game. They might tail a little bit, but they'll be okay. They'll be okay. You need to calm down about Washington. It was a great season. Philadelphia did what they were supposed to do, despite all the stuff going on with them. They know they're a good football team. Last year was an off year. They came back and they did what they're supposed to do. The Buffalo Bills, back to them for a second. It's okay. They'll find a way to get there. You got to scratch and crawl sometimes. I think Denver had lost 4 Super Bowls in a row, a bunch of AFC Championship games. They finally got. It's okay. Washington's going to be fine. Buffalo's going to be fine. all these people with their little comments and their stupid, innuendos and all that stuff, they need to relax. The games were solid in terms of like what we saw from players. Like the Washington Philly game, we knew it was going to be like this, but not like this. But it gave us a chance to watch Jaden Daniels in a very big game, and he's played those all his career. And he did something. I mean, it wasn't exactly what he wanted, but it's a step in the right direction where he's going to be something. He's going to be a force to reckon with in this league. Don't get it twisted. So those are my AFC and NFC championship games reviews. As far as the Super Bowl is concerned and who is my pick, right now I'm not gonna wait because a lot of people they want to wait. I think the Eagles could do this, and I'm gonna pick the Eagles, and this is why. Because nobody's gonna talk about the Eagles. They're going to find ways to kind of look for holes in the Eagles offense. That's what the analysts are going to do. People want history to happen, and I respect history. Like I said, I picked Kansas City against San Francisco because I don't trust that coach in San Francisco. He proved it when it was 28-3. He proved it the first time Kansas City played him, and he proved it last Super Bowl. So, but unfortunately, he's not there. Kansas City's not playing that team. I'm going to pick the Eagles. The last time I did pick the Eagles because the Eagles were on a firestorm last season. This particular time, I'm picking the Eagles because nobody thinks they're going to do anything. Everybody already thinks, man, it's going to be a dumpster fire. Patrick Mahomes is going to have this magical blowout game. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are going to walk into the sunset. I think the Eagles are going to come out there and steal this one. Probably 42-39 or 28-25. It's going to be one of those magical games with a lot of things happening. Patrick Mahomes might have a magical all-world performance like Brady did against the Eagles when he lost and still lose. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to edge them, not to blow them out. Calm down. To be the champions, you got to beat the champs. So I'm going to pick the Eagles. So I'm going on that right now. I'm not waiting until 2 weeks and listen to all these stupid analysts and watch these Super Bowl shows. I don't watch any Super Bowl shows, by the way, folks. So the next time I talk and watch the game, it will be the Super Bowl. And then, of course, I'll do my final pick six show of the season and then season 3 of Unscripted at that time. But that's a whole different conversation for another day. But with that being said, let me finish off with the coaching situation. So far, there have been 6 positions filled with 1 still remaining. So the names of the coaches, I'm going to give a quick take, and I'm going to give you my grade. So Ben Johnson from the Lions went to the Bears. I mean, he was the head target throughout the year. I gave the Bears a B for that because Ben Johnson is new. He's fresh. He has said all the right things. He's got a quarterback. He's got a running back. He's got receivers in place. So he should be able to get something out of this. And he's an offensive-minded coach. All these analysts, you got to have an offensive-minded coach to win. That is the biggest bunch of BS I've heard. Last I checked, Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls. Actually, I think it's 8. 2 with the Giants or 1 with the Giants or something like that or whatever. And Sean McDermott was in the AFC Championship game. And so was Dan Quinn in the NFC Championship game. And they're defensive-minded coaches. So this thing about defensive-minded coaches and offensive-minded coaches, we got to stop listening. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, and I'll say this, I'll say it only once. I miss Undisputed with Skip and Shannon. Because they had a different dynamic and a different perspective on how they talked about the games. Is Skip an annoying little weasel? Absolutely he was. Shannon was loud and boisterous, but he was great too. Those two clicked in a way you'll never see that happen again. First take, you get your moments, and it's blah, blah, blah. The Herd, same thing, blah, blah, blah. The rest of the show's blah, blah, blah. So it's all about the coach, the way he can handle the situation, the way he can control it, put it in a situation where the culture, as long as the locker room and the culture is good, it doesn't matter what type of mind the coach has. So I gave the Bears a B. Aaron Glenn went to the Jets. Defensive-minded coach, another defensive-minded coach going to the Jets. They actually hired him before they hired the GM. I gave that a B+. Why I gave it a B+ is because the defense is in place. He's going to change that culture on the defensive end. He's got a great mindset. He's a former player who's played that position. He's going to help guys like Sauce Gardner and others. And he's not BSing with anybody. He's ready to go. You could see he's well ready. He's a well-ready guy. He's not a Mike McDaniel or Matt Eberflus or some of these other guys that just got hired randomly, excuse me, and just, okay, here's the job. You know, you do your little Rooney rule. You interview one or two black coaches knowing you're not going to hire them, and then you hire these guys. No, the Jets are like at the point, Willie Johnson's like, listen, man, I want somebody who's ready. Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson are the two most ready coaches out there. Period. Whether you like them or not. They are the two most ready coaches out there. The resume speaks for itself. I don't care if they lost to Washington. Whatever. They went to the NFC Championship game the year before and should have won that game, but that's a whole different conversation. They're the two most ready coaches that were available in the market, and the Jets and the Bears got them. So I expect to see something from them, and I expect to see, them do well. Anyways, next one. Jets hiring, what's his name? Liam? Whatever his name is. That's exactly what I said. D+. Are you serious? This whole thing with him in Tampa and then this? Next order of business. The Jags don't know what they're doing. The Raiders hiring Pete Carroll. I give that a C+. Pete Carroll is 73 years old, folks. Is age a factor? They say no. Yes, it is. But what makes Pete Carroll a non-issue for me is his energy. He doesn't have that old school mindset. He does in some ways because he was born in 1951. He's in my parents, my mom's age bracket. And my mom has that mindset sometimes, just kind of stick to my own ways kind of nonsense. But, Pete Carroll's got a lot of energy and he's very open-minded to certain things. So it could work. But everybody's got to be on the same page in Las Vegas, or otherwise it's not going to work. Now, they could have went out and hired a young coach. They've hired Josh McDaniels, failure. Antonio Pierce, that was a failure, but he handled the business decision things, which I felt was phenomenal because a lot of guys were just whatever. So he handled that very well. But unfortunately, he was subsequently, due to the record and the team and the roster, he got fired. I'm going to give it a C+ for Pete. They need a quarterback. They need to get a quarterback, and they need to get something on the offensive line. Otherwise, that's what it is. Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots. I'm going to give it a B also. I don't give A minuses. I'm going to give it a B- because he knows what he's doing, but also we all know that New England was going to target him from the get-go, and they did. So they got their guy, and hopefully, they get something out of him, and he gets something out of the team, because I'll tell you guys right now, the Buffalo Bills are going to be your 2025 AFC East champions again. There's only two teams in the last how many decades that have won that division, New England and Buffalo. Josh Allen and Tom Brady. Just think about that. Josh Allen and Tom Brady have been winning that division frequently. and they will continue to win that division. So as far as Vrabel is concerned, getting the A, he deserves it. If it was 2022, but this is 2025. So I'm going to give him a B+, B- for New England, because they got their guy and he knows the culture and he knows what he needs to do. The next team that doesn't have a coach right now, regardless who they get, they're going to get the same grade. They are going to get a D-. What are you waiting for, New Orleans? What are you waiting for? Now, have you had some turndowns? Maybe. You don't have a quarterback in place. You have a stud running back in Alvin Kamara. You got a great receiver in Chris Olave. But yet, you are still sleeping on this. What are you doing? And you guys are hosting the Super Bowl. D-. I don't care who they hire. Mike McCarthy just announced that he's going to take the year off and come back next year because Jerry had him sitting. What are you doing? You guys are getting a D- for that. The next and final order of business, this is an F-. The Dallas Cowboys hiring Brian Schottenheimer, the son of the late Marty Schottenheimer. Are you out of your mind, Jerry? Of course you are. You found another puppet to control. That's all I have to say about this one. You hired another puppet to control. It's clear how you run things. Since my coach, Jimmy Johnson of the great Miami Hurricanes, has left, and of course your boy who you brought in to coach that one season to win that Super Bowl that obviously belongs to Jimmy, you guys haven't done nothing. And I'm not here to bash Dallas, but this is an F-. And if there's such thing as F-, I just created it. That's who you hired to coach your team? And it's not like Dallas is not talented, folks. They're a very talented They're a very talented football team. They got talent on both sides of the ball. But unfortunately, the talent upstairs isn't good. If the talent on the field matched the talent in the office, we could be talking about Super Bowl. But the best talent for that team is on the field. And on that note, I'm going to shut this show down. Ladies and gentlemen, Super Bowl is coming up. I might do a quick take on the Super Bowl, but I've already given you guys my pick. Hopefully you enjoyed these AFC and NFC championship games. The NFL offseason is already kicked in while this is going on, and once the Super Bowl commences in 2 weeks, you're going to see an offseason that's going to be as wild as it always is. So, but I will be, still doing my stuff between now and the Super Bowl, and of course I'm going to do my Super Bowl edition of Pick Six, which will be the final episode of the season. But anyways, folks, for those that have been listening to this podcast, big appreciation, big respect. Thank you very much across the globe. And that's it. Have yourselves a great morning, great afternoon, great night, wherever you are in the world. Once again, Unscripted 101, Pick Six Podcast. Signing off. Peace.